you like to give your report, sir?
Sure. Well, first, before I talk to it at all, I would like and really request that every member of this commission read the notes. They were all handed out to everyone. I think that the time we spent with our constitutional officers was very worthwhile. I learned a lot just listening to their responses to our questions, and I think we're lucky we have those people. Now, that being said, the commission assigned me to the the Constitutional Officers Subcommittee, and the group elected me chairman. During the process of our meetings, there was a question about MSBU's. One of the recommendations that was in my proposal, or our proposal, is we being the constitutional officers. Constitutional officers had zero to do with MSBU's. Now, I'm signing this with the understanding that I personally disagree with the report I signed. It's my responsibility to sign it because I'm chairman, and I'm fulfilling that responsibility. But over time, I will speak against some of the things that are there, most specifically MSBU's. And before we even talk about MSBU's, I recommend that we bring to this body Gordon Berger or people with that kind of knowledge so we understand what happens when you take money from this pot and don't replace it in this pot. The reduction or the lowering of the MSBU charges, in my opinion, would be catastrophic to this county. It couldn't be made up, and the properties that had no buildings on them will be the only beneficiary, because they will no longer pay the same amount that they're paying now for infrastructure. It'll all be right on the homeowner. So that being said, there's another part of this. I mean, I will go through every page, but there's 8 pages in the report, so I don't want to waste everyone's time reading it. I'd be willing to answer any questions. The other one is the enforcement of the charter. That I really believe in. I may be wrong, but I do believe we've had a constitutional officer, an airport authority representative, the sheriff. They were all run against by non-residents in Charlotte County. And I think this commission owes an obligation to make sure, and this is a suggestion, I'm not married to the words, so that we, as a group, can be called back at any time during our new tenure, which I recommend be till the next group is assigned in 6 years. So we can decide, and it's only residency, it's all we're talking about here, not trying to change what their job is or reassign things, and we're talking only for the election. And we've seen that twice in the last 4 years, and I believe it was about 8 years ago is when the sheriff started. It's expensive, and the only people that any one of us, if we wish to go to court, could very easily do that. File a complaint, take it to court, but that costs money. So if we analyze the first suggestion that we made as a committee, and just let's build on that a little bit, so that rather than the person running for office who is a resident having to fight someone who is not a resident, if we simply stop the person that is the non-resident from being able to run for office in this county, it would put the responsibility on the non-resident to take it to court rather than the resident. And I think the resident is our responsibility, not the non-resident. This is long overdue, and I think we should dedicate a day to just talking about it, because it's important.
All right, so, you have 8 pages. Is there 1 or 2 pages where you have your recommendations?
Yeah, the last page, there's
Last
2.
page.
And one of them was not put in there because people disagreed. So therefore, my reasoning, although I signed it, I'll make an honest presentation, I disagree. And I'd be more than glad to openly discuss what took place and what has to be done. We're a small committee, 4 or 5 people we talk about. That should be spread out to any place, in anyone who runs for office, where there is a requirement, well, I don't care what area it is. The county should take the responsibility to make sure that we don't have people running for office who are non-residents. Now, when we spoke to Supervisor of Elections, he is the only person as a resident of this county that's barred from making those decisions by state law. Therefore, we have nobody. So everything that's in this charter cannot be enforced. There's no enforcement process. There's not a group to say, this is what we meant. Let's go, county, other than saying to the commissioners, well, what I think you should do, commissioners, is you got to worry about it. Now, I've watched commissioners being placed in the same, you've been around here a long time, Bill, you remember that one. That one took us over a year to straighten out, and that was only because the person walked away. We made a deal. It still wasn't taken care of. So I ask everyone here, please read everything that came in. The only reason that it was even entertained is because one of the constitutional officers decided to present their feeling about MSBU's. It was not on any questions we asked. It had nothing whatever to do with those people. Now, if you have any questions, I hope everyone has read it, because I'm really disappointed. Those people do a fabulous job, all of them. And I think that we owe a responsibility to make sure that only residents run for office in this county.
What we have here, I see is two issues on that page 8. Enforcement of the charter and the burden of non-ad valorem fees from MSBU's. Right.
Well,
Do you have, I see one down.
Mr. Schaefer, when this happened last year, I was shocked. I watched the county commissioners meeting where Paul Stamoulis went to the county commissioners and explained it. And I couldn't understand where it came from. That's how I became more familiar with the charter review, which is why I'm here today. I'm in 100% agreement with what you're saying, that something needs to be done for an enforcement. My only question is the recommendation. I don't know how legal this could be, because what you just said, Paul Stamoulis is the only person who can't bar somebody. So even if we have a committee, somebody can still go directly to the supervisor of election and turn in a packet. And I think I remember correctly that it's all they need is their license to show that they're a Florida resident, and the money, or the signatures, and they're verified.
well,
I may be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. So again, the enforcement, it's going to cost money, because even with this recommendation, it's sending it to the county administrator or the county attorney's office.
well, what it would come, in my opinion, because it's the simplest way. You have 15 people here. if 8 of them said, we fight it, we will have to pay, because we pay for the county attorney's salary anyway. And she would then take it, or he would take it, to a judge and get a court order.
So let me weigh in just early in the discussion. I've had discussions with Jeanette Knowlton on this specific issue. And neither of us feel it's appropriate for the county attorney's office. If this amendment in substance were to pass, the appropriate person would be the attorney for this board to take action.
I don't think so. I do believe that we should be bearing extra monies. I believe we have a substantial cost in the county attorney's office. If the county attorney's office wants to hire an outside attorney to assist them, I agree with it. I don't believe the limited budget we have here, because we're free. The only one that gets paid here is you and my lady friend over here. So I'm willing to come in and meet within 24 hours of you calling me. Or not you personally, but
But he's already telling you, remember, that the county attorney said it's not appropriate, and in that retrospect, he would be the one. I mean, if we come in here as a body, if it amends where we keep together for 6 years, and this happens, we bring Rob in, we vote unanimously, or 3/4, that, hey, listen, we don't think this person is,
50% is all.
or, and then it's up to Rob then to do his
And
No,
stuff.
and it's
There's-
Well, I
whoever
don't
the
know
attorney,
that-
I may not be the attorney at
Just-
that
just-
time, but
just-
can't do this
just-
forever.
Isn't there an ordinance that we have to have outside legal counsel
It's
for
a-
the count, for
we're
the committees?
separate.
I don't
Right.
agree that that's necessary, and I do believe that the commissioners could decide that, or not decide it, or fund it, or not fund it. There is no reason additional burden should be put financially on the county.
Well, it is
But-
putting an
but-
additional burden on the county. The county attorney's not free. Their time is allocated, and just like you said
Well,
before.
they're not allocating for every minute.
well, they're
I'm
not sitting
sure
around.
with the amount of attorneys we have, we could file a local before a local judge. I don't see
Every
that as a
action that the
problem.
county attorney's office takes is billed to an appropriate department.
It doesn't matter who they bill it to.
Would they be billing
Because
it
they're
to
going to pay
you?
for it
just-
anyway.
they-
My point is that none of us are attorneys of a statute to fight it. The fact is, though, most attorneys should be able to file I'll call it a stop work order, right at a local judge. Then the illegal person would have to go after that stop order because they would be named.
What's the feeling of the commission? Don?
I need some more information, actually. Rob, what is the life of this group? Do we serve until the next group is?
It
Not
has to
now.
change.
This is this proposal is to amend the term of the Charter Review Commission that would extend its term, and then thereafter, each subsequent Charter Review Commission would be appointed
Okay.
for the full period of time. But let me say before you say that, I think it's important, and it's in this report as well on page 7, the person who is running for office has the legal right to bring that lawsuit. Whether we think that's fair or unfair, that's the person who has the vested interest in the situation. Bringing in this board, whether it be through the county attorney's office or the attorney for this board, as taxpayers are now taking on this responsibility that somebody else does have a remedy for. So that's a decision for this board if that's what you think is appropriate.
But you see, the point I'm trying to make to you is, it is the county's responsibility because it is the county charter. The county charter sets the standard on which a person runs for office. Look at the commissioners, it's all spelled out. So the fact of the matter is, they're the ones that should maintain the cost. If they need outside counsel, that would be up to the commissioners to decide. I don't think we should be deciding who should pay for what, because bottom line is, all of us in this room are going to pay for it, one way or the other. Even if we put the responsibility on the individual who's violating the charter. That's what we have to understand. So somebody has to file a complaint. So if this board files a complaint, it goes to the county attorney. If the county attorney wants to hire someone on the outside to enforce what it says in the paper, and that's why I say we should talk about this, it's really important. This is not something, okay, everybody, yes or no. No, this is something that everything negative about what I'm suggesting should be brought up, and everything positive should be brought up. But this is not open season for people who are residents, who are governed by this charter, live in this county, should be penalized if someone from another county runs against them, which is illegal by the charter. The county owes the responsibility to enforce this charter, not somebody that decides is a resident here and decides that they want to run for office and then somebody from another county
Teresa?
runs.
Two things. One is, I do believe that there's a possible need to continue a board until the next election of another board, not just for this kind of activity, but also for more investigations of potential charter amendments going forward. I think that the period of time we have is way too short. But that'll take up at our board discussion when we get to it. But to your point about the prosecution, I think what we need is what precedents are out there in other charters. We're not the only home rule charter in Florida, and certainly not in the United States. So I did just Google it, and I found one. And I see what they do. I would like to know what other counties, cities do to enforce their charter, and see if we can't come up with something logical based on that, based on precedent.
Hold on.
Well, a couple of things. I do agree in principle what Bill has said about if there's a violation of any ordinance, law, or charter, it's never incumbent upon the citizens. If I find a violation of zoning of my neighbors, I can call the county government, because it's their rule. This would be the county's charter rule. So enforcement certainly is a government function. But I have other questions about this. First of all, I find it almost remarkable that the supervisor election is handicapped by state law to certify people running for office. But if that's the case, that's the case. I don't understand the wisdom of it. But let me ask you this. People do have to be qualified to be on the ballot. Now, somebody does do that. You need so many signatures or pay the money, for most cases. That responsibility falls with supervisor of election, correct? Okay. So that's just for signatures. Let me put out a scenario. I'm 16 years old, I'm not an American citizen, and I put my name in to run for any of these positions, tax collector. I get the signatures. You mean to tell me I'll be on that ballot? And I'm not a registered voter either, because there's no requirement, I think, to be a registered voter. Wait, but it just says in the charter, I'm saying the charter, you have to reside 6 months prior to running for commissioner or constitutional officer. You know, it's not just about not living here. Who checks the other qualifications? Because you have the same dilemma. You have a conundrum here.
Bill, we've had people that are on probation, that have been in prison, that have run for office here in town.
Yeah.
And nothing can be done. Nothing.
Well, I find that incomprehensible, that nothing can be done, and it shouldn't be on the back of me running for office to have the voting, the election process tainted, and that it's legal to taint it. And if I'm running for sheriff or property appraiser, and there's 5 other people to water down the vote, it shouldn't be upon me as the candidate.
I would just like
All right, but
make a
please, let me finish.
We got 2 others up with hands up, so I want to.
So, that having been said, I read here as a provision, not interference with employees. And the county does have the authority through the county commissioner, through the county attorney, to bring lawsuit. Is it possible to give the county attorney this responsibility?
That's what I said.
That's what they're
That's what's in
suggesting.
it.
Well, you're talking about the charter commission staying and interpreting something. I don't know what there is to interpret. It's black and white. Either you live here 6 months prior or you don't.
But that's the problem. Patty, I know you've had your hand up too.
Thank you. I just had a couple comments. One, I was also on this subcommittee, and I agree with what Bill is saying, but I also agree with Teresa. I guess I was under my question is on the process today, because the agenda says presentation. You're not asking the commission to vote yea or
No,
nay on these.
no, we're just to have this massive discussion, right?
Thank
And
you.
that's healthy for us. But down the line, probably in March, right around in there,
Right,
we're
so
gonna start voting on these things.
I think it would be helpful, because I think I only speak for myself, yes, I agree, we need to figure out how we enforce our charter. And if what is proposed here isn't necessarily the best way, that's fine, as long as we find a way to enforce the charter.
Exactly.
Well, it's not our responsibility.
Well, it could be, but it,
I would like Bill to clarify something here.
Anybody else before I get back to
it
Bill?
is in some counties in the country.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a county attorney. What else does a county attorney do with this sort of thing? I mean, if I were running for office and somebody was not qualified, I'm gonna spend all my life savings. you know,
We
to
can ask
take
this
this
question,
very
we,
quick.
now,
It's crazy.
don't get in the weeds here, because remember, we are gonna take a vote on it, so we can change the language to put in the charter how we think this enforcement should take place, because that's what the problem is now. There's no enforcement. And we can do that, that's what we're here for, that's what,
Why isn't there any
Let's
enforcement?
just clarify
It's
that there is
obviously a
an
county attorney
enforcement,
problem.
there is an enforcement ability. The candidate that is running can file action in court challenging,
Any citizen.
I'm sorry,
Isn't it any citizen can actually,
I don't know that any citizen can. You have to have standing in a lawsuit, so I guess as a registered voter, you could argue that you have standing. I also caution you that you have to remember this all takes place in a very compact time period. From the time that the qualifications are due and closed to the time that the election ballots are printed is a very short period of time, because the primaries are in August. And usually these races are on in the August primary. To bring an action in circuit court, which I believe would be the most likely place it would be, and this may be a discussion that you can go through the steps, but it may not result in anything. Because I think given that time period, and I'm not a litigator, so maybe a litigator can tell us you can get on an expedited ballot, docket or something, but I think you're in the summertime, that's the slowest time of the court system to begin with. So whether this is a resolution that doesn't really solve anything, that's another concern that I have.
Richard?
Well, I'm looking at this, any law, or anybody running for office could screw up the whole kit and caboodle right from the beginning.
And we're gonna
Just go out there just to jam up the whole system. I agree with Mr. Schaefer that there has to be a definite method to deal with this. And if we have to go to court, we'll go to court. It's not uncommon. We've done it 100 times or more. We just can't obviate our requirement to make a good decision, and I think that's a good decision. Enforce. I mean, my whole life is about enforcement, and yours too.
Yep, I know.
We've gone from something simple, which is residency. That's what I wrote to, residency. Maybe this committee might believe that we should go to ordinances. I don't know, but I'm not recommending that. I'm recommending one issue, which we've seen on at least 3 occasions. And again, I support the people who are residents of this county. The person that would file against the county would have to fund it himself.
Correct.
So the violator then has to come up with a sum of money to fight it or to withdraw it.
But I think the question is not the language that we craft, and it could be that we tax our attorney to do that, whereby what you're asking is in the charter.
That's correct. So the tool is there.
Right.
There's two tools I'm asking people to consider. I really would like them to think about it for months. I don't expect this to be solved in one day.
No, but it's a healthy discussion.
It needs to be discussed and openly dealt with. The responsibility is our government and our charter to protect the citizens of this county, not some outsider who does not live in this county, or any other rule. I mean, for example, we could have an argument over, can I run in District 2 because I live in District 3? That's residency. Those are the kinds of things that I really would like to be specific. And if we could come to some meetings of the mind, then someone could say, well, what about an ordinance? Okay, let's see how it fits. So rather than us talking about 10 or 20 different things, let's just talk about residency.
Right.
And deal with the
That would work.
residency, and who's going to pay for it? Well, let me say this to you. What we're doing right now, only the resident will pay for it, one person. And I think that's unfair. And if we're going to support a system like that for our residents, we're not doing our due diligence. I don't care what it costs somebody from Sarasota.
Donna, you had your hand up.
I was just wondering, with the comment that Rob just made too, would there be a way that we could put in there that if somebody violates this, that they can be sued for the cost of the election, or something to that point? Because sometimes maybe if you hit somebody with money, that may make them a little bit more, even after the fact. I'm just kind of wondering, obviously I'm not an attorney, I don't know how to do the legal mumbo jumbo, but I'm just wondering if there was a way that, because with what, and again, I agree with everything that's being said, but isn't there something in the constitutional amendment that people can run for office? You can't stop somebody. And I want to. I want to be able to do that as well. Is this something that we need to bring to the Department of Elections at state, where they maybe look at making a Florida state statute regarding this? I don't know. And I think maybe that's what we need to come back to you, the expert.
Yeah, theoretically, we can put something in the charter that,
I mean, looking at what other counties do, but again, I just want to know, what is the legal ramifications? I mean, again, we can come up with this, but then we all have the ability, or we may be sued because we stop somebody from running for office. Because I feel like it's in the US Constitution somewhere where everybody has the right to run for office.
well, I mean, that's a whole nother
Correct.
risk area, that you bring an action challenging somebody's ability when in fact they were qualified, and what liability comes from that. I haven't
Right.
begun to think about that.
Yeah, I'm wondering, can we simplify this by, in the charter, making it a crime? That anyone not following this provision may be guilty of a felony and have it investigated by the sheriff.
And our charter doesn't have the ability to do that.
But we can't,
We can't put that in.
we can't
That's not-
designate crimes?
No.
Can the ordinance is going to misdemeanors, right?
Ordinance or state law, things of that nature, but the county charter is not a vehicle to create criminal action. activity.
Or maybe the county could on their level, at least making it an infraction that could be investigated. At least if it's criminalized by somebody, it can be investigated. And that seems to be the cheapest and quickest way to get to it. And as a deterrent also.
I just would like to pose this. I believe that there's no reason the commission can't write an ordinance, if we give them the purview to do that, for a fine, substantial. And then we would go to court to enforce the fine, and this dishonest person is responsible to defend themselves. The whole purpose that I'm trying to do is to get the person that's causing the problem pay the penalty. I do believe if we go to court, I would acquiesce to a lawyer. You tell me if that person caused us to spend money to fight them on the illegal running for office because it's in our charter, can we not sue them for our losses, including our attorney's fees?
Theoretically.
Don?
The point is, it opens the door. If it cost us 50 grand, it's so small in $1 billion budget.
Mr. Chairman, if this body is transformed into continuing rather than being terminated, we have our own attorney. I would assume that our own attorney would continue to be there, and it would seem to me that it would be a simple process if a person thinks that there's a violation of the charter, the chairman of the charter commission calls us together, and we empower our attorney to
And
take
that's what
legal
I
action.
suggested, that if let Rob put something together for us to look at in writing. Although, that was, of course, it's predicated on the fact that the elector's gonna say, okay, let's keep that charter review commission going for another 6 years.
Right.
But we can also explain in the language that it's for this purpose and not sitting out there for everything. But-
Right, we shouldn't meet monthly.
No,
You wouldn't meet at all.
We wouldn't meet at all until
Yeah.
something came up.
Charge of violation.
Well, so what I'm saying is that if the committee's never called back, it never is back, and there is no expense. So all I'm trying to say is, look, one way or the other, the commissioners are going to have to produce whatever we spend. Give it to the commissioners and to the administration and let them enforce it, but who's going to make the decision? People that are not part of the administration. They don't have a dog in the race. Supposedly, we don't have a dog in the race. We're just citizens. And we said, this is what our intent was. So if we say that's what our intent was, and we want to go after the person that's violating, and we're talking about residents now. We're not talking about all of these other issues. I think that if this can be solved, we could expand it wherever you want to go. But I also think that our commissioners have the right to establish ordinances. And we can put a charge in here that it's their responsibility to create that ordinance, the penalty. That's all I'm saying. And the more expensive we make it for, quote, I made a mistake, I didn't know I didn't live in Charlotte County. I mean, we don't need a moron in office. If you don't know what county you live in, there's something wrong. And in the case of our clerk of the courts, this guy flatly lied and used his business as his residence, and there was no residence there.
So why wasn't that considered fraud and investigated?
I don't think you could use the business.
Who's going to do it? That's the point I'm trying to make. If this group were together,
He's signing under oath. There has to be, there's no
There's
law.
nothing
Well,
that they
no
have.
enforcement.
if it's a violation of law, the sheriff
I
would
mean,
There is no
investigate.
law.
Other counties do retain their charter review board for a period of years. They're elected, by the way. He's going to like that. Sarasota is an example of it. And so, I mean, I repeat what I said. I think we should know. I think it's not. I know this issue is extremely important, but there are other. This is the charter, and we should have a mechanism within it for enforcement.
Okay, wait, yeah, but
Period.
It's not our job. The job of the Charter Review Commission is to review the charter every 6 years and recommend changes to the county commission with their approval to the voters.
Right.
That's it. Our term is over. We have no enforcement authority. It was never granted to us. And I'd like to know why our county attorney would find it inappropriate to sue somebody on behalf of the county who isn't qualified to run. What's the problem? That's why we have a county attorney.
Well, the county attorney is employed to represent the Board of County Commissioners and the county. She's not employed, or he, whoever it may be at the time, to enforce laws in general. So.
This is the county. This is the county. We are the county, right?
Well, let me finish.
We have a charter?
let him finish, huh?
So, one of the issues may come where a sitting county commissioner's opponent who is allegedly violating the charter. she would have a conflict of interest in that, in representing the county commission when she's, for appearances, trying to ensure her boss's job.
Couldn't she hire an outside attorney?
But that's the point. She doesn't feel that her office should be in that position in the first place. The Charter Review Commission has its own attorney. The county attorney is not, by charter, is not the attorney for the Charter Review Commission. It's an independent body, and its attorney is who should take action on behalf of that body.
Well, it certainly should be up to the Charter Review Commission to enforce something that was voted on by the voters, decided by the voters, and as part of the charter. I mean, it shouldn't be up to the Charter Commission.
Ron?
This is a much bigger question, I think. I mean, we're talking about one issue, residency for an election, which incidentally, airport authority elections don't fall under this charter. But the point is taken that commissioner elections and other constitutional officer elections are specified in terms of residency requirements. What about everything else in here? I mean, the issue that you're talking about is bigger than residency. I mean,
Correct.
how do any of the provisions of the charter that are violated get enforced? If the commissioners interfere with an employee, a staff employee, there's a mechanism in here that spells out how that is enforced. A lot of the other sections, there is no enforcement even mentioned. So, I mean, are we really talking about a much bigger question? How does this
Yes.
get enforced?
Yes.
It's adopted, it sets rules in place. If the rules are violated, how are they enforced? I don't know the answer. I'm asking that as an honest question.
I would just like to raise one issue with regard to the airport.
No, I don't want to get off the subject.
No.
That wasn't my point. My point was
The
enforcement.
original legislation that created the airport authority clearly indicates it emulates the commission.
Doesn't matter. It's a separate governing board. This charter doesn't
I just
apply
didn't
to it.
want
That
people to
was
misunderstand.
clarification only. I don't want to get off on a tangent.
So what you're,
How do we enforce any of the provisions in here that don't specifically specify an enforcement mechanism?
so it's no different than the Constitution of the state of Florida or the Constitution of the United States. There are enforcements by bringing lawsuits. If you feel your constitutional rights have been violated, you can bring a lawsuit because your constitutional rights have been violated. It depends on the situation that you're talking about where the charter hasn't been enforced. For example, we have to have the county commission agenda 7 days in advance. If it doesn't come out 1 week, 7 days in advance, there really is no ramification. I mean, it's to those type of things, it's more of a guiding principle than it is, if you don't follow it, you've broken the law. So I think you've got to, look at the situation. I think where there's a need for a remedy, like a county commissioner interfering with staff, that's spelled out how to deal with that, because you need to stop that from happening. If you don't get the agenda out 7 days in advance, should people be fired?
Yeah, it's not a black and white
Right.
issue. Yeah.
Right, so I think that's where you've got to look at the section of the charter to determine, what type of enforcement you would need.
I think I want to look at this too is, first question, what does Punta Gorda do as a city?
Nothing.
If somebody ran for office and doesn't live in a city?
We are having that discussion in our charter review right now.
Okay, so,
And the debate is, what is residency?
right.
That's not
My
clear.
second question is, not only does that person run, what happens when they get elected? Doesn't somebody certify at that point that they met all of the qualifications, whatever they may be at the time?
So again, the
This
city
this
is,
has been a healthy discussion, and I...
No, what happens if somebody gets
I
elected? What's the
understand it.
mechanism?
Bill, hold on, we're way in the weeds here. I wanted to discuss, because at the time comes up here, and we're not that far from, all of you are gonna vote, do we wanna take up this issue and put it on the ballot? And at that time, it's up to our attorney here to put down the language is how we're gonna do that. So think about it, percolate it. We have one more item on there from them, talking about MSBU's, and what actually are you getting at with the MSBU's?
I disagree with it. It didn't belong
Patty and
Thank
Liz?
you. On behalf of the majority of the committee who asked to have this inserted into the report, you'll note that what we're asking for isn't a specific amendment to the charter. This is something that we would like to note to the county commissioners in the report. 2 of our constitutional officers spoke to this at our subcommittee interviews and asked or mentioned that the burden of the MSBU non-ad valorem fees is increasing. And so we are recommending no particular mechanism, but maybe it's time to review the increasing burden. For example, when Mr. Pope spoke to us, there are 213,000 property tax accounts here in the county, of which 102,000 of them, the non-ad valorem fees are higher than the actual ad valorem fees. And Ms. Potts also spoke quite eloquently at the beginning of her interview with us in regards to, in her opinion, the need to review and address the MSBU's. So I think it was recommended to simply note that for the commissioners, that maybe they need to undertake some form of formal review process in regards to the burdens of the MSBU's, similar to what the Charter Review Commission recommended to the commissioners in 2016 as well. So that's what this is. It's not an amendment, but it is simply to note that for the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Building on that discussion item, we have, through our ad valorem tax, an ability to get relief, get capped homestead exemption, et cetera, which goes against our ad valorem tax. MSBU's have no such relief. And so people who are in some kind of financial difficulty are getting relief from their ad valorem tax, but the MSBU has become a burden, and they don't see any relief for that. And so that's the discussion we want to bring forward, to let people know that we have mechanisms that inflict pain, basically, on people who are in need.
We did that 6 years ago with the other Charter Review Commission. We included notes to the commissioners on items that we felt didn't need to be changed in the charter, but it was for them to kind of look at and maybe make some changes to that. So I have no problem with that. Yeah.
If we give relief to some, who's going to make up the difference? I want to know. I mean, do I make it up? Does he make it up? How about you?
We're not, again, we're not asking that. We're asking only the county
I get
commissioners,
it.
if I understand what you're talking about, is to take a look at this and see.
You know, I think it's part of caveat emptor. I mean, when you buy a piece of property, you must know what's going on there. I mean, it's just, you know, I think we're burdening the county with you know, being a part of a welfare state if we want to start doing that. When people buy a piece of property, if it's encumbered, then no matter what, I think people should understand that. Not my responsibility if you make a bad deal. I'm not responsible for that. I can make my own bad deals. I don't need anybody to help me.
This doesn't say it's the county has to do anything. It's just saying they're asking them to look at it. Pure and simple. I mean, and they do that from time to time. And I think the last time they looked at it was about 5 years ago, I think. And so it's definitely time for them to look at it. That's all this is asking to do. I'm sorry, Donna, I see you're over there waiting. Go ahead.
That's okay. So we're on the administrative staff, and I will state for the record, there's a camera that's actually recording me saying this, and everybody on the committee is going to laugh. I had no clue I was even in an MSBU. All I know is that this is a lot of money, and I've been hearing it since probably Bob Starr, how horrible these MSBU's are. And once I realized, I actually pulled out my taxes and realized that it's on there. I've done a lot of research, but it was actually very enlightening for me to understand. One of the things that came out of our group that we gave a recommendation back to the county is more education on what MSBU's are. I'll state this, and we all know this, we've said it so many different ways. I actually think it's quite impressive, the system that we have in Charlotte County, because I don't go down to Englewood, so I shouldn't have to pay for those roads. But in my area, if my roads need to be replaced, that's what you're paying into. So, not to get into it whether it's good or bad or not, that is one of the things that our committee had tasked the county with, is more education on exactly what MSBU's are. Everybody doesn't like a bill when the price goes up. You know, somebody posted ice cream went up to $14. They're mad about that. We all get mad when bills go up. But why is it going up? And back to what Dr. Pitt said, Charlotte County has actually become a staple around the state of Florida on how we're able to pay and assess to have these roads done. They just met with Hernando County because they're broke. They cannot find a way to get the money to replace roads. So kudos to Charlotte County. Now, there is an audit, because that was my big thing, and I was checking on that. They do an audit very often, and what money is raised can only be spent in that one district. So it's not like, again, they could take money from the Lemon Bay district and bring it to Greater Port Charlotte, where I live. So all that money stays right in that community, which is quite impressive for a community that was not built out as these little developments. We don't have, Charlotte County was not built out like a Babcock Ranch or a Westport. It was built out where you had one house on one block and then one house on another block. And who's to pay for all those roads? And who's to say what's right and wrong? So I will hope that that will help some as well, is maybe just more. I found it, and like I said, everybody laughed when I brought that up. I knew nothing about MSBU's.
That, as silly as it may seem, as large as Charlotte County is, and the difference of the needs in various areas, it's working.
Yeah.
It's working. It's worked for years. I've been here 35, 40 years. It's working.
And we would break our community. We would go bankrupt if we went to ad valorem, or we went to ad valorem taxes.
That's that's not the point of what this was trying to get at. It was a note to go to the commissioners to say that, at least from our subcommittee, we heard this from constitutional officers. We heard it quite passionately from one who was in the process of possibly taking somebody's house away from them, not because they hadn't paid ad valorem property taxes, but because they hadn't paid the non-ad valorem MSBU's. That is, when that's in an opening statement to you, you sort of take up and take notice, and so that's where this came from.
Got it.
I'm sorry.
I think that part of this discussion is statistics to tell you how many MSBU payments are made by dirt. No house, no business, it's just sitting there. And therefore, if they think that that tax is high now, reduce it. Because the ad valorem tax is going to go through the ceiling. Because the ad valorem value of the vacant property, some of these properties are worth a couple $100. Some of them are really expensive. They might be $3,000 or $4,000.
Is it really our position to discuss all this here? I think the recommendation the county made is sound. I mean, that should just
It's
pass
not
off to
Patty,
the
this,
commission.
this is a
Or the
recommendation from
committee.
the Constitutional
Yeah, the
Officer
constitutional
Subcommittee.
committee is sound. Why wouldn't we just pass it on
That's,
as recommended?
put it on the,
Yeah,
it's on the list.
we can easily send that off and to the county commission.
When we do our report at the end of everything that we do a report that indicates what charter amendments we're proposing, and then it also has a section that makes recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners that are non-ballot issues. And we vote on each one of those that go in there.
Right. At our next meeting, I'd like to, the administration and staff committee and the Board of County Commissioners meeting, commissioners give their reports at our next meeting, so we'll get caught up on that, and then we want to have one more after that, and that's other boards and agencies. On the new business, we have to pay the bill of the big law firm. I need a motion to do that. Yes, Mr. Pitts?
Yeah, I'm looking at the bill here, and I'm seeing that the attorney met with a subcommittee. What was that all about?
He has that ability to do that
What's
anytime he
that?
wants to. He has that ability to go to any of the subcommittee meetings anytime he wants to.
Yeah, but what, I I mean,
To make sure
he never
it's
came
going
to
down
my
the right
meeting, he
road.
never, I don't
Give us some
understand why
advice.
whose meeting did he go to?
Bears.
What's that?
Bears, of course, Bears. Remember that?
We did ask him questions, and we Bill, but he didn't have to come to our subcommittee.
Yeah, that's okay, he went to that committee, there must have been a reason for it. and-
You had to iron out the little disagreement, so, which we talked about.
Well, I always thought that there could be a disagreement, you write it down, you make note. I don't think, you know, I just feel that when an attorney has to go into a subcommittee meeting, it takes the chairman's authority and makes it, you know, move. It's like, move over, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be taking over in case I don't like to hear something. You know?
Did the committee ask for you to go to the meeting, Rob?
I was asked to go to the.
Then we should pay you for going. It's, I mean, that's it, no more discussion, it's simple.
The
committee
committee did
asked.
not ask for him to come.
I didn't say.
By our vote, we did.
Well, some of us did.
At least, well, one committee member, that's all that matters, so I'll make him, what was the motion?
I mean, you didn't ask Rob to order pizza for you and bring it to the meeting. You asked him to come and give legal advice. That's what we pay him for. So approve the
Go
bill.
ahead, Donna.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Very good, motion carries. Also, you saw the quarterly expense report, so you kind of see where we're at. And this thing, the figures there, don't get nervous on them. I mean, they're not locked in stone. If we need more money, I can go to the county commission and get some county staff and get more money. It's not like we're broke. So, but it keeps you an idea of what we're spending, so that you're aware of it. Next thing is, our next meeting was supposed to be, or is that the March 9th meeting? That was the March 9th meeting, was supposed to be in Punta Gorda at the event center. But however, no one told the event center. That's a good way to put it. That date's not open. So, obviously, we're gonna meet next month, which is February 9th. That is open, correct, Andrew? So we could meet there on February the 9th, or we can meet there on April the 13th, or we can meet there on April the 27th. What is your pleasure?
What were the
February
dates?
9th.
Sorry,
February 9th.
February 9th, is that, what's on here? Everybody pretty good?
At the event center?
Yeah. We'll send something out, Andrew will send something out, but February 9th at the event center.
There's nine,
At the same time, 3 o'clock.
okay.
We have those other dates set in there, and depending on how we feel, we can always, you know, move a date or drop a date. It depends on what the commission feels. Right now, we're on track. We're moving right along here with the things. Andrew's been pretty good about putting together a list of what everybody who speaks to citizens and everybody else, and then we'll start taking votes, and so we can decide how we're going to move forward.
Last month when we did not go in, or we went into subcommittee meetings, we were told we couldn't do that. We have some business that we have to finish, and we kind of skipped over the subcommittee reports. Should that be where I make the motions? Or I just need to go within my subcommittee?
I think it's, you can do what you need for the full subcommittee. The problem with having the separate breakout meetings is there's no
Right.
ability to take the minutes and everything.
All right, so
If you just have some business that you can conduct quickly within the overall board, that's fine.
I have the same issue.
Okay. I think all of us may have just some votes that we need to take within our subcommittee.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go
Shall I
ahead,
start?
do it now.
For the administrative staff subcommittee, I'll just do a quick roll call. Sherry Burnett.
Here.
Cyril Sy, and Rob Humple.
Here?
Okay, motion to approve the November 18th meeting minutes.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Yeah. Motion to approve the December 8th minutes. No, you were there.
Okay. Are you asking for a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion.
I second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
And a motion to approve the final report.
I make the motion.
I second.
All approved? Okay,
Who else?
good.
Oh, we were next on the agenda. Do you want me to go now?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, Board of County Commissioners, we just need to approve our minutes of last meeting. And again, I'll begin by taking roll call of the members present, Jeff, myself, Dr. Pitts, and Donna.
Get it?
So we do have a quorum to proceed with a vote. Has everyone had the chance to look at the minutes? All right, we have a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Motion we approve.
All right, Dr. Pitts and Donna, you second that?
Yep.
Raise your hand up. All right, any discussion on that? All right, then we'll move the question. All in favor of adopting the minutes as written, signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. And the other thing is, we did finish our final report, and we need to, again, we're not voting on it now or discussing the issue, we're just submitting it into the full commission to the chairman or some point in the future. If you have a chance to look at the
Yes.
final report.
Yes.
All right, somebody want to make a motion
I'll
to?
move.
All right, Donna's made a motion to approve it. We have a second? All right, any discussion on that motion?
I thought it looked great. I thought it looked great.
All right, yeah, and thank you, Andrew, for that. You've done a terrific job. Jeff, any discussion on that? Okay, well, let's move the question. All those in favor of accepting and submitting the final report as written, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it unanimously. And that's it for the County Commissioners Subcommittee.
Okay, Teresa, you next?
Yeah, committee roll call for the other boards. I think we have Adam and Steve. Okay, James is absent. We have to approve the minutes of December 8th, 2021. Do I have approval? Second, approved? Yes? Okay, we're all approved. The only other issue, Andrea, I just want to make sure on this. Are we final with this, or do I need any further?
You told me you finalized it at that meeting,
Right, but,
but it's in the minutes.
okay, just for formality, I just want to make sure again that we're all in agreement to submit this report that people will see.
Anybody else in that committee?
Constitutional officers.
Constitutional officers?
That would be Bill.
Yeah, anything else? Your committee, first I gave their report, everything you need to
Yeah,
do.
well, I would answer any question with regard to it.
On the agenda, it says that we need to approve the minutes of the December 13, 2021 meeting.
Okay. Consider that had to do with the final report, and the final report is accepted, therefore the minutes are accepted.
No, no.
I make a motion to approve the December 13, 2021 minutes of the Constitutional Officer Subcommittee.
I second.
You want to call the vote? Call the vote.
Oh, yeah, I second it.
No, call the vote. Oh, call the vote.
No, I know.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else, boys and girls? I think we're getting close. Anything else we want to discuss? Anything?
Just wondered, at what point now, what's the plan going forth? All the reports have been submitted. Do you have an idea of when each of us will come up?
Yeah, at our next meeting, the administrative staff and the Board of County Commissioners will give their reports. At
Okay.
that next meeting. And then so we'll kind of go over those. And then after that, we're going to start taking the list and doing the debates and voting so Rob can know in advance what language he's got to put together for the ballot. And before we have to give to the county commissioners.
Are we going to?
Public hearings, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are there public hearings?
They are. And they'll be advertised. And that's the, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, isn't it the April 13th?
I think it's in May and June.
Yeah, it's May and June, that's right. 11th, 25th, and the 8th.
At which the public is encouraged to
Yeah. Like they always are. And I'll show you, I don't know if anybody saw the paper, but I.
Yeah,
see the
very good
advertising
article,
this time.
very
Yeah.
good, very good.
And the article was very nice.
Yeah,
very
very
good.
nice.
But again, look, it's not saying that we're not doing our job, we are. It just says the public isn't exactly fired up on an issue. That's basically it.
How did they get all that information in the paper when it was not complete?
I'm sure they probably, if I'm guessing, they listened to the tape.
Yeah.
Public record.
The reporter is here, she could tell us.
Yeah, the reporter's here, she's right there.
Well, she wasn't
It
here
looked like they listened.
all the time.
No, she was on tape.
You're a very good minute taker.
There you go.
Bill?
Yes.
Okay, so I just, for clarity, administrative and then us, will we be voting in turn on those recommendations, or you deferring them all to the end?
Probably toward the end, yeah, we'll do that, yeah. It makes it easier that way, we can go right down the line,
All right.
makes it much easier. Anything else?
When do you close off the public to submit?
Well, June the 8th, we have to be done, I mean, pretty much, because after that, on July the 12th, the report has to go to the county commissioner's office.
Well, we have to cut off the public at some point.
Well,
Just
no,
my
the public can come to up to the June 8th, you'll still come. Okay, so just don't know, I mean, they can come, they're welcome.
Yeah, typically, once the ballot questions are voted on and decided, you don't take any more.
Right.
And that'll be done on, at which meeting?
We don't know
Kind
when.
of depends as we flow.
Oh, they're not done collectively, and they're not done on one day.
It could be, depending on what we
Depends on,
do.
I mean, if there's 22 of them, it's probably not going to be done in one day. But if there's 3 of them, pretty sure we can do it in one day.
One day, yeah.
Well, you're more likely to get.
We'll go through them all, a lot of, but like the last commission, a whole lot of them, didn't have much traction, and it was a vote of no. And then we got to some that people liked.
$20.
Darn.
That's how we'll pay the attorney fees when we start suing people.
All right, anything else, boys? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.